Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Plenković.
Thank you very much. First of all, a warm greeting to Commissioner Füle, and also thanking him, of course, for his great contribution to the Croatian path to the EU accession. And I think sincerely that this was perhaps one of the biggest achievements that we have together done in the course of your 5-year mandate, and I warmly welcome all your contribution. I heard over the weekend one joke, which is apparently a joke currently going on in Moscow. It says, who is Russia bordering? And the answer is whoever it wants. A bit delicate. I know that you speak the language s kim hoće. A bit delicate, but also one of the morals I think that we have seen in the last couple of weeks is certainly an element of our Eastern Partnership policy where the European Union has never clearly opened the perspective of membership to these countries. This was critical also in our debate in the Parliament in several resolutions over the last few weeks. And in that context, when we regard the relationship of NATO with the same countries, we can clearly conclude that these countries are sort of soft belly for both NATO and the EU when it comes to the collective security and when it comes to the automatic invocation of the collective security mechanisms. So in that context, all our reactions, despite the fact that we are witnessing a negation of international law, negation of multilateralism, negation of respect of territorial sovereignty, negation of bilateral agreements, and a step further from the current frozen conflicts going all the way to the annexation, is something which we cannot really only observe and say what could be done. So therefore, in the future, I think especially after the Vilnius summit, the challenge for the European Union in the next 5 years is really to see how far we can formulate the Eastern Partnership and what are the real perspectives of the future of the EU membership for those countries, what Andrew Duff has just said. I think this is a critical point, because if it remains like this, somewhere in between, we shall always have a very limited leverage on the situation, and other important actors such as Russia can exercise their interest in the way which we also have all condemned, but I don't think this has very much changed actually in place in reality. Linked to this, and since several of us were in Sarajevo last week, where we had the interparliamentary meeting, and just picking up a little bit on what my colleague Vuljanić has said, we also witnessed some statements by the President of Republika Srpska, Dodik, which very much looked like a sort of willingness not to remain in the united Bosnia and Herzegovina. I would just like to see your view, because in the public space in Bosnia and Herzegovina, after your visits, after Madam Ashton's visits, after several initiatives of the governments of some of the neighbouring member states, such as Croatia, such as Slovenia, after the European Parliament resolution in February, there is a notion of the new approach of the EU policy. But I have to admit that talking to both European actors and the local actors, I have a strong feeling there is a lot of confusion. If there is any new approach, what is it? For some it's the civil society, for others it's the notion of less separatism and less centralism and more federalism, for others is the economic part of the issues and the pre-accession assistance and postponing the critical issues such as constitutional reform and Sejdić-Finci. So I think perhaps a little bit of clarity, and especially since you are in the lead on this very delicate dossier, would be very helpful. And I thank you for all your efforts, Commissioner.